Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of AgogeTV, episode number 8 with myself, Phil Leonard, and my co-host, Josh Summersgill. On today's podcast, we have Paul Johnson, who is a lifestyle advisor and runs his own nutrition and coaching company called Lift, Eat, Grow, Row. Is that right? That's the right way around.
Lift, Row, Eat, Grow. I'll explain about that. It's a messy one.
We're coming to that anyway. So basically, we've got Paul on because not only is he like a wealth of knowledge within the fitness industry, he also holds 3 indoor British rowing records in the lightweight.
Four, but who's counting?
Sorry.
4.
What's the 4th? I've got the.
I've got 1 minute
Yeah.
max distance, 4 minute max distance.
Yeah.
I've got 500 meters and the 1K.
It's the 500 that I've not seen. Which
The
is
500's the quick one as well.
Yeah, I wanted to. I mean, I've seen the 1K one, so like, and if that's anything to go by, I legit tried to row, and everyone's gonna be completely off topic now. I tried to row at your 1K pace for 4 250s the other day, and I nearly died and didn't do it.
I can't even get the numbers up. Like when I'm fucking around on it, I'm like, what's it?
I was doing 250s, and I was supposed to be holding like a 135, and I was like, I'm gonna see if I can hold on to a 131, and I got to like the 3rd round and was like, nope, not even close. Sorry. So basically, Paul is a beast on the rower. He competes at CrossFit events as well, and he also has a super busy family life. Just going, yeah. I think we might get some of that might pop up during the video. So we'll let Paul explain a little bit more about that in a second. So Paul, tell me a bit more about basically how you got into fitness and coaching and sort of where it all began for you.
So I think like a lot of people, it's from school. I wasn't great at school, but I was good at PE. So from there, it was left school, went to college, did a BTEC in sports science, did all right in that. Went to uni, did my degree in sport and exercise science, did all right in that. Got a job in a gym, just doing gym instructing when it was like the structure was you were a gym instructor and not paying rent, and so did that. And then went and did my master's in exercise and nutrition science from that. Went off to do PT in a commercial gym, which was a horrible experience. Lasted about 6 months and just hated it.
Yeah.
And then for the last 10 years, I've been working my current role as a lifestyle advisor, which is basically exercise for cardiac rehab, pulmonary rehab, chronic pain, fibromyalgia, so like specialist exercise conditions. And part of that's adult weight management. So I deliver kind of group weight management sessions. So my role's kind of split between specialist exercise and adult weight management as a day job. And as a side hustle, it's just performance focused coaching. So mostly rowing, but the rowing which like lifting, which is how the name of the business kind of came around. So rather than just making people row, it was looking at the sport holistically, what's going to make them better, whether it's the strength, whether it's conditioning, like accessory work, nutrition. So that's how Lift, Row, Eat, Grow kind of came about. It's just kind of all the things that I like doing, put into one place. And it's, with it being a side hustle, you can kind of control it how you want. You can take on the clients you want. You don't need to try and be a jack of all trades. You can really work with people that want to work with you, and it's fun. It's a nice little project, but I'm literally working at both ends of the scale. So I've got people day job which they're wearing an oxygen tank to do rowing, and I've got people which one of the guys I was working with just rowed the Atlantic.
Right. Okay.
So it's just a real spectrum of sort of people and abilities and all sorts. It's pretty cool.
That's really cool because, and it kind of brings me on to my next question, because you're very opposite ends of the spectrum there. So like I say, one moment you're working with people who probably can't even get out of bed without breathing hard, or like struggle to get up the stairs because they've had cardiac problems and all the rest of it. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you're dealing with people trying to perform at the tip of the spear. How do you like say, how do you manage it? Do you find that you just swap from one to the other, or is it like what, or do you
I
find some
think like
parallels between the two?
there's certain parallels. A lot of it is like the guys that I'm working with Lift Where We Grow. You mean they're like, you can tell them exactly what to do and they'll do it. You mean the sort of people that they are, the very growth mindset, they're like very driven. They've come to me because they're already driven. They just want a direction, or sometimes already coaches and they just don't want to do their own thinking.
Yeah.
You mean sometimes it's just like do this rather than have to overthink. I think coaches are quite bad trying to do their own programming at times because there's an over analysis. Well, should I do this? Should I do a clean? Should I do a squat clean? Do I do squat clean? You know what I mean? In front, you know what I mean? And so sometimes when you do your own programming, you overthink it. So the guys which I'm working with, a lot of them are already coaching. They've got like the good skills, they've got the knowledge, but they just want that direction and seeing somebody take it from a different perspective. The daytime clients, they're very much just new. They just don't know what to do. It's a case of finding the starting point. The cardiac guys have had a bit of a wake up call. So there's been like a bit of an event which is like, I need to sort something out.
Yeah.
Pulmonary guys, it's just kind of progressive over time. And it's just working with them like where they are and the starting point, and not thinking that there's a starting point too small. So I've had people with chronic pain on a bike where you'll count their programming by how many revolutions they can do on the bike. So you're not even looking at a time scale. It's like this week do 5 sets of 10 revolutions.
Right.
I mean, so that's the level of client that it can be. So for from an experience point of view, when I first did that, I wouldn't have thought that somebody would get a training effect from that, because I wouldn't, a lot of people wouldn't. But for that individual, that's like us maxing out a 1K or an assault bike. You know what I mean? It's that level. It just takes time and experience to kind of work with that person and build it up progressively, and just kind of, I think the day job clients have a lot more wobbles, sort of like psychologically, and just like the can't do's, the barriers come up.
Yeah.
Whether the Lift Where We Grow clients are very much like, there's a barrier, how can I find a way around it? So it's just coaching skills which are different, but it's
that's fascinating. And like, I think we obviously deal with people coming into the CrossFit gym that have not trained in years and things like that, but I think it'd be interesting for me personally to see people even further down that spectrum, because I think it changes how you look at things as well, and how you do coach. Because once you've had to find, I don't know, like it's hard enough trying to find a modification for, say, getting somebody to learn how to snatch when they've got and you like teaching them to snatch with a PVC pipe, to teaching people how to walk upstairs. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is an example. Like, it's
and that's it. So like when we look at the chronic pain guys, it's like, how can you just do your day-to-day tasks? Like, how much range of movement do you need in your hip to be able to put something on your coffee table?
Yeah.
How can you hinge from your hips to load your washing machine? I mean, have you got that mobility in your shoulders to put something on a shelf? And if not, how can we help you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's the elements are there. So CrossFit, when they changed over from like the performance stuff to, it was about a year ago, wasn't it, where they went very much health focused, and you got like the older guy on the sofa with like 2 jugs of water. It's very much that way of thinking. So like CrossFit are a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of that, but day to day, that's what it is. It's thinking about like, what does that person need to do? What's their function? What has to be able to brace, stabilize, move, and just be able to do what they need to do.
Well, they don't need to split jerk 180 kilograms, do they? They need to be, like you said, reach up onto the shelves, you know, things like that.
At the end of the day, though, I suppose it's still all performance coaching, isn't it? It's still like,
definitely.
It's whatever range end of the spectrum they're on. You're still looking at what does this person need to be able to do, and how do I get them to get there? You know what I mean? How do I do it? I tell you, could you talk? And I wasn't planning on going this way just yet, but could you talk a little bit more on the mindset of maybe coaching people, like say at the, I don't want to say lower end of the spectrum, that's the wrong term, isn't it? But like at the start, a very early start point of like a fitness journey.
Especially like the weight management guys are coming in and they see to us because they've probably done a Weight Watchers, they've done a Slimming World, they've tried other things. So they've got a really, you'd say, like good dieting history.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is they haven't seen it as a process. They've seen it as a diet with a start and an end point. And so I think like the media makes it in terms of the expectations of what people can achieve. That plays into it. So a lot of it, and this kind of PN stuff's quite good in terms of you've got to find out what that person needs and how they can progress. And progression will look completely different for 10 people. So in my groups, I've probably got 10 to 15 people in a group. We do a 45-minute presentation, but they might all take one thing different from it.
Yeah.
And it's acknowledging, like getting them to acknowledge that all they've got to do is think mindfully and make 1 or 2 key changes a week and be consistent with that.
Yeah.
So little things would be like, okay, if someone's having a cup of tea and having 2 biscuits at a time, over the course of a week, that may add up to 600 calories in biscuits. Whereas the average client looks at the takeaway on a Saturday night and go, I can't have that. You see the big thing.
Yeah.
You don't see how the little things accumulate. So it's trying to get to them to kind of acknowledge what the little things are and how they can make a change. And acknowledging again, like with the exercise example, that no change is too small. It's just the accumulation, the consistency of it. And sometimes the client just needs to get into it and see that it's working. So they need a big win. They need to get on the scales and see a 5-pound weight loss because they need that from a psychological point of view to see that it's worth it. Others need like a couple of easy wins, so I can go for a 2-minute walk. I can walk to the end of my road and back. So a really good example is I had a heart failure client. We couldn't sign him off for exercise. He wasn't allowed to until like he'd gone through the consultants and all that. So he literally started off going, I'm going to go walk to the end of the road and back. Then it was around the block. Then it was a 10-minute walk. And then it's probably like a year, 18 months, he went from that walk from the end of the road to back. So he ran the London Half Marathon last year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bonkers. It was crazy. And he's an extreme example. But it shows what's possible. But it was just a case of like little step-by-step progressions. Now I can do this. Now I'm going to move to that. And it's that working for over time. He lost a decent amount of weight, progressed through with the activity and his fitness. And then next minute, and he's 78, and he's not like a young guy. And he did the London Half Marathon last March. Which is a pretty cool thing, but it's based on like the process of lots of little wins, rather than crack on, go and do a half marathon.
It's what, and again, like I find it when I'm first starting to coach people in nutrition, when I sit down with them and I'm like, and the first thing I talk about is, do you sleep? And they're like, what? You know what I mean? And you do tend to find that you sit down with people and you spend, in the early days, you spend more time pointing out little tiny victories and going, no, actually, this is really good. And because they're focused on the fact that, like you say, they had a Chinese on Saturday night. They're like, oh, I had a Chinese and then I didn't train this day and I missed one session. And then you're like, yeah, but like you trained 3 times 2 months ago, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I'd agree that that's probably one of the key skills of coaches, being able to reframe a situation. So even if somebody's gone to and had a Chinese, if they've had a smaller portion of it, if they've made a different choice, if they've gone like, I've had a Chinese, but I planned that in advance, so tomorrow I'm going to do this, or earlier I did that, going to the Chinese isn't a problem. If they've started to make different choices and are mindful about it, or even planning it. So even if they're going, I'm going to go Chinese, I'm going to have whatever I want, but if it's planned, versus I just don't know what to do, I'm going to go to Chinese, it's different in it. So it's, as a coach, it's being able to reframe what they've done, see the good in like what they're seeing as being a negative, and actually turning it around. And that's a real skill in itself.
Completely agree. That's awesome. I'm gonna move on because you're making me want salt and pepper chicken. No, but I do. I honestly I see that with a lot of people I work with, and it's really good to hear it from, like I say, both ends of that people deal with it on both ends of the spectrum. It's awesome. So my next big question for you, kind of thing, is I probably wouldn't see you as maybe an out and out CrossFitter. Like you might correct me, but you employ CrossFit methodologies at times, but I wouldn't say you just follow CrossFit. So I'm just curious to see how your training and people you work with training differs during like a normal portion of the year, and then how it would differ maybe when you're going into a CrossFit competition, or you're building up to an event, like trying to build up to your 500 meter row, for example?
Yeah, so I was full. I would say I was full CrossFit up until maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it just didn't do my body any good. So which is when I kind of switched to rowing. So, but in a long story short, I did Rain Hill probably 3 years ago, and after that, I was in bits.
I think I've seen pictures of you covered in tape.
I was, yeah, and that was and that was following. It was following an online programming, so I wasn't doing my own programming that, and I was just following it because that's what it was like, a competitor's program. I thought, oh, I'm in a competition, I need to do that. Didn't do any favors. So I kind of,
is that what you put it down to? Sort of like
I think
more the program itself.
Yeah, I don't think it's the issue with CrossFit. I think like because I'm not in an affiliate. A lot of it was training at home or training independently. There's an element of thinking you're better than you are. So thinking I was able to do that programming. And again, like, programming's changed that much so quickly that even like 3-4 years ago, there wasn't the availability that there is now.
Yeah.
So like back then there was like Comp Train, there was Invictus, and there was the Outlaw Way.
Yeah, I think I did all.
And yeah, and in my head I was like, I'm not very strong with a barbell, so I follow the Outlaw Way, and it broke me. It absolutely mullered me. So I turned up to Rain Hill like smashed. After that, I thought, I need a bit of a breather from it.
Yeah.
Started rowing a bit more. Found out I was actually quite good at rowing as a result. So now it's still a lot of ollie like basic strength work. Still a lot of ollie lifting. Less up until when I was practicing for Rain Hill, there was less sort of the CrossFit skills. So I wasn't doing any kipping. I wasn't doing any handstand walk. Don't do anything like that because there was no real need to. And then I ended up getting into Rain Hill, which I wasn't planning on doing. Basically, a friend asked me to enter the ballot, but I'll enter it. I hadn't been doing any CrossFit. Ended up getting drawn out of it, so I ended up having to do the seeding events. Thought, oh, it'll be all right. I've not done any CrossFit. Next minute, ended up in Rocket, and I was like, I should probably do some CrossFit now. So like
2K row event.
Well, that's the problem. One of the seeding events was a 1K row.
Oh.
It was a 1K row into an AMRAP of, what was it, 8 thrusters and 12 pull-ups. But the 1K was a separate seed.
Right.
And that literally, I thought, I'm not going to go too hard. And ended up that just brought my ranking, like my seeding down so much that I ended up in Rocket as a result of that. Which wasn't a bad thing. It was a good event.
Yeah.
So from the last training cycle, it was very much upper body strength, Metcon. There was a function which would be all the Olympic lifting, power work. There was a mixed mode day, so it would just be something like 10 dumbbell snatches, 20 over the erg, burpees, 30 cal row every 5 minutes for 10 rounds, that sort of thing. Lower body day, and then there would be a mixed erg. So because I've got everything at home, I'd do like 500 meter row, 1K assault bike, 500 meter ski. And then the next week would be 400 meter, 800 meter, 400 meter. So that it was like linear progression of that.
Yeah.
So in my last sort of training cycle, I had the 1K World Sprints and Rain Hill were in the same week.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So I didn't do any specific 1K prep for it. I didn't do any specific rowing for it because the goal really was not to look like a muppet on Rain Hill day, rather than to do well on the 1K. So it was very much sort of, I only was rowing as part of a Metcon, but when I did it, you do it with intent. You do it with set paces and stuff in mind. So it's probably training 6 to 8 sessions a week. But that phase was very much, I'd say, CrossFit with accessory work. Normally it would be very much, I like Marcus Philly, you know, the functional bodybuilding stuff.
Yeah.
And because it makes sense to me because I'm old and I need to look after my body a little bit. It makes sense to do those sort of things, taking the load off the body. Use Whoop a lot. I know you guys are using Whoop.
Yeah.
So I use Whoop really to guide how hard to hit it on a given day, and just kind of use it to manage volume as well.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, I've never kind of really prepped specifically for rowing.
Right.
Yeah, I've never gone like I'm going to do a 1K cycle or 500 cycle. It's just been part of what I've done. So I'm probably lifting 4 times a week, conditioning either at the end of each session or 2 separate sessions a week. So just make sure when I do it.
In terms of like rowing, so
Yeah.
I dislike rowing for myself. There's a bit of an understatement. I appreciate it so much, but it kicks my ass so much. I still have to do it, but now for me, it just seems that for me to get better at rowing, and from what I've noticed, getting slightly better at rowing, I just have to be prepared to suffer a little bit more. So I think in terms of like weightlifting, like you can either lift that weight or you can't. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really matter on a clean if you try any harder. If you're giving it all you've got, then you can either lift it or you can't. But it just seems to me that if I'm gonna, I don't know, do a 1,000-meter row, it's all about how much of a hole am I prepared to put myself in. Would you say that's right, or?
I'd agree, especially when it's like for a time trial.
Yeah.
Then you've just got to be like, you've got to be prepared to hurt, and you've got to. It sounds a bit sadistic. You've got to embrace it.
Yeah.
You've got to be like, I want to see how much it can hurt. And again, if you want to tie it into the mindset things, it's like, I know I'm hurting, but I know other people are in the same boat, and they're going to slow down now.
Yeah.
So the separator is, well, I can slow down, and if I go from a 131 to a 133 pace, is it going to feel any better?
Yeah.
Probably not. So why don't I just go full send and get it over and done with?
Yeah.
I just think like I would rather do anything other than rowing intervals. Like, apart from things like 250 sprints, I'll happily do them. But you ask me to do 8 to 10 sets of 500 meters, and it's a straight up no. Anything else I'd rather do.
It's dead interesting. Like there was like a couple of studies done where like the difference in pain perception between like sprint and speed and power athletes and endurance athletes, and what they found was that speed and power athletes, like, they've got a higher pain threshold. Right. So when it's hurting, they can like deal with that pain better, but they're really bad at dealing with discomfort. So those longer, this is a bit of a grind, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't hurt, it's just not nice. They're not great at dealing with that, whereas the endurance guys were like, they can deal with discomfort, but they've got a lower like threshold for pain. So as soon as they do like pain intervals, you want to stop. So it's kind of thinking about like where do you kind of fit into? Is that your like speed and power?
That's quite interesting.
It's really useful for me because I fit into that. Like, I don't mind hurting. I don't care how much it hurts because I know it'll be over soon. Yeah. But if you ask me to do a 5K and it's just like grind, and I can just like, it's not hurting. It's just like the seat doesn't feel great, and I'm like,
I'll tell you one thing. There's one thing that I'd choose 500 meter intervals over, and it's that bullshit marathon row that Phil did last Christmas. You couldn't pay me enough money to sit on that rower for, what was it, 4 hours or something daft like that?
I was doing Murph straight after it, wasn't I? So I didn't like really try. Like, it sounds awful. I didn't really try to row the marathon. I just sat on the rower and was just like, it was like, I had my heart rate,
for hours.
I had my heart rate sat up on the monitor so that I could see that I wasn't getting my heart rate like spiked for any reason. And then I just sort of like sat there for 4.5 hours, and the worst bit was I just needed a wee. Like, that was genuinely the worst bit of rowing the marathon. I think it took me like 4 hours and 20 minutes or something like that, and like I wasn't moving at all. I was just like,
last summer, like one of my clients, he did 25 marathons in 25 days on the rowing machine.
No thanks.
Which is bonkers. So I did a ski marathon over a weekend. I did a ski marathon one day, and the next day I did a row marathon.
Oh.
And it's just that. Just
Yeah.
keep going, and it's just like the mental side of it is like you get to halfway, I've got another hour and a half to go, and it was just tough. Where you say like do a 1K, go full send,
it's over.
And
yeah, no, I agree, and I think I thinking about what you say about people with different pain thresholds, and like looking at the people I know within the gym, like different athletes who I know certain people are more enjoying stuff. You can I can definitely see that without even asking them the questions.
yeah.
You can I can definitely see it and relate to that. I just a quick question as well. Bring you back to Whoop, because I know we discussed it. We've discussed it before, but it's something that I'd like to say I've been experimenting with. I've been considering experimenting with it, but using your Whoop to actually decide what sort of carbohydrate intake you have per day. So I know I've read a couple of things about it, and basically some people if they're a lower recovery day, they increase the amount of carbohydrates they have, and if they're on a higher recovery day, they decrease the amount of carbohydrates they have. What do you think about that? Is that do you think that would be a solid idea for somebody trying to perform, or is that something?
There's two ways of looking at it. There's like, if you're low recovery, do you need to do something to get that recovery back up? And then I've always found that if I'm in a calorie deficit on Whoop, then I've had a lower recovery score.
Right. Okay.
So there's always the benefit of, do you need to do something to restore what's being depleted? The other way would be, if you're on a higher recovery day, how does that affect the volume that you then do? And so do you have more carbs on the higher recovery day because your volume may vary? So if you were using Strain Coach and you were using that, how would that affect the volume that you do?
Yeah.
I think self-experiment's probably the best way, and have, especially with the the new Whoop journal and the monthly.
Yeah, it's good that.
The monthly kind of report that you get. Literally do 1 month where on a low recovery day I'm going to have high carb. The next day or the next month I'm going to do it on a higher carb, higher recovery day, and see how the volume changes. And then because the analytics are so good on it, you'd be able to compare this month doing this compared to that month, and just see which for you is approach. It depends whether you want to get more volume in terms on the good days, or whether you want to kind of prevent having less low recovery days. I guess it's a bit of swings and roundabouts, but I think like the way that they do the analytics, you'd be able to test it out really well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to look at. Might be something that I have a go at while we're stuck in the house. Then definitely. So I just want to come on to Lift, Eat, Row, Grow, and how that came into existence, and how you managed to hold down having quite a few clients, as well as being a full-time family man. So it's
busy. So it came about because I like coaching, I like working with people, but because of the family life, getting to a box to coach it just wasn't going to happen. I was at the old CrossFit Warrington when that was as CrossFit Warrington, and trying to coach, I just couldn't do it. It just didn't fit in. So the online stuff before, it was kind of just as it was coming about, just allowed me to kind of at least be in contact and help people do things that they want to do.
Right.
And so it was a bit of bonkers being up and running a year now. So literally this time last year, we had Katie, so she's 1 now. Set up the business, was working, and so within like that very small space of time, a lot happened. Which is good, because have you ever heard of the Sinatra test?
No.
Which is basically, if you can do it during the hardest time, you can do it anytime.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like we're in now. If you can set up something positive now, once we get out of this situation, you'll be flying. So I feel like rather than waiting for the perfect time, it just kind of happened about 12 months ago, and then progressively I just kind of picked up clients. I've not done any Facebook ads, I've not done anything like that, because I don't need to, in terms of people that want guidance, or they've been coming to me for whatever reason. And it means that I don't have to kind of tout for clients that I don't necessarily want to work with. Which sounds arrogant, I don't want to work with, but when it's a hobby and you want to work with very specific people, it gives you the ability to do that.
No, well, you can totally relate to that.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's really good as well.
Clients, and like, you know, there's obviously there's certain clients that you like, you enjoy coaching more than others, and that's just how it is. And like, if you can hand select them, then it's going to make your job more enjoyable, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't even feel like a job, and that's the key. You don't want it to feel like a job. Some side stuff, although it's like late nights and it takes time, it never feels like a job. And there was a really good post that I saw on New Year, and it was basically, is it Shesma Majaria? But I'm pronouncing his name right. Apologies if you watch this, I got it wrong. But in effect, he said, like, I know everybody else is touting for clients at New Year, but I'm literally doing the opposite. I'm not taking on any clients. I'm not doing anything, because the sort of people that want to start on January the 1st aren't the people that I want to be working with. That, for me, that was a light bulb. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because the people I'm already working with, they're not waiting till a calendar or a Monday morning to get started. They go, I've got this comp, help me get for it. I want this record, help me do it. You know what I mean? So they're very much already driven. And it was a proper light bulb moment, that it was like, well, as a side hustle, you can be picky. You don't have to take on clients for money. I mean, it should never be about money. And as soon as it's about money, you've lost the game, haven't you? It should be about, how can I help them? Do they enjoy it? What am I learning from it? And how can I pay that forward? And that's how it came about. So it's been a year, and progressively just picked up clients, fitting it in around full-time 9 to 5, and 3 kids is a balance, you know what I mean? But it very much comes down to like priorities. And it sounds cliche stuff, but basically, if it doesn't move me forward, I don't do it. If it doesn't move the business forward, I don't do it. If it doesn't make me a better athlete, I don't do it. If it doesn't help me be a better parent, I don't do it. You know what I mean? I don't waste time on things which are, I'd say, meaningless. I don't watch Netflix, don't watch TV. I read a lot. I do a lot of courses, want to spend time with family. I train. That's it, you know what I mean? I think too many people think they're too busy to do things, but when you look at the time, they just invest it poorly, you know what I mean? And it's a case of like, your actions aligned with your goals. If you want to be a better coach, you've got to invest in being a better coach. If you want to be a good parent,
schedule your priorities, not prioritize your schedule, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And that it is, and it's an element. You've got to grind, you've got to do work. You know what I mean? And I think if you do things only on the days that you feel like doing it, nothing's ever going to get done. And sometimes it's just 5 minutes is better than nothing, innit? Read a page of a book. Do 1K. So last year when we had Katie, and I was like really struggling to get into the flow of training again. Last April, I just said, like, every day I'm going to do 1K on a bike, on a skier. You don't have to be fast. It's just the act of going and doing 1K, because that'll help build that habit for when I'm in a better place to really want to kind of train hard. And that made a huge difference, just to kind of keeping that thing. But it's so easy to go, oh, I've not got time today, I'm tired. And I think like the most important thing, and I always try and say this to clients, is like, being tired isn't a good enough excuse. You've got to be able to decipher being tired from shattered. You know, so if you're mentally tired because it's been a long day, doing something productive, training, reading, whatever it would be, that might be useful. If you're shattered, you've got to be intuitive to know actually going to bed's the right thing to do. And I think it's a real skill of like helping people go, I'm tired, I don't want to, versus I'm shattered, and today the right thing to do is prep my meals for tomorrow and go to bed. And it just takes time. It takes time for that person to kind of acknowledge that. But once they do, and they can decipher between tired and shattered, it's really useful for what they need to do on a given day.
Yeah,
Love it.
I think a lot of people can learn from that. One thing I want to just touch back on that you mentioned earlier as well was like that I think coaches can learn from, and like obviously we do this podcast predominantly for our members and people who we're close to, but like if there's any coaches listening to this, I think that you mentioned that having it as a side hustle allows you to be like basically give people a better service. So like if people treated it, whether it's full time or not, with the same attitude as you, I think that a lot of coaches would do a much better job, you know, if I'm honest with you, and would be just again give the clients such an improved service rather than spending all the time trying to get new clients. Treat the ones you got the best you can, and they'll keep.
100% agree. 100% agree. And you see it all the time that people spend that much time on Facebook ads and trying to get on new clients that they forget about the ones that they've got. They're the ones which you're learning from. And like, I'm never a fan of like testimonials on like websites. And I guess it's kind of part of the game. It's part of fitness. But they're cherry picked, aren't they? You're not going to put on a bad client. So you've got to obviously show your good work, but as a coach, you should be learning on the clients that you couldn't help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should be like, it's that survivor bias. You mean if you just look purely at the clients which are on your testimonial wall, you're going to get like an inflated ego about how good you are as a coach. When you think back about, I couldn't help that person, I couldn't help that person, I couldn't help that person, why couldn't I do that and what could I have done better? That's when you become a different coach. But a lot of people don't like that self-reflection, self-critique of couldn't help them. That's where true growth, and that's where you really become better at what you do. I think like over the years, how many people I've not helped. So baby's just kind of crawled in.
It's like, you did the same thing. What are you doing?
How many people I've not helped compared to the number of people I've helped. See, that kind of highlights like day-to-day life. It's you've definitely got to look at all the ones you couldn't help. I mean, those people that you couldn't kind of improve the numbers with, or the weight loss clients that they just didn't do what you said, and it's not because you couldn't do it. It's like, what have you done for them not to be able to do it? I mean, you got to have a certain sort of level of grit to kind of look at your own ability and go, I did that really poorly. What can I do better next time? And that's going to be the true separator in coaches, isn't it? It's like who really critiques at the end of every week, every session, and go, that was great, I'll do that again. That was shocking. Why was that shocking?
I think a lot of people, and again, I don't think whether you're a coach or not, that's still an important message. Do you walk out of what you've just done and look back and, like you say, reflect or not? Like I say, I think if anybody listens to this and that's all they take home from it, then I think they're going to go head in a better direction than when they started. The next thing I want to do is we call them fun questions, not necessarily fun, but
they are.
Right. No, they're just like they're a bit light-hearted, and sort of quick fire questions before we wrap it all up, basically. So, question number one, book recommendations, and this is just so I can add to my book list. But what's your number one book recommendation for everybody and anybody?
Ooh, that's a tough one because I'm a book geek. So I think at this current stage, I think the Chimp Paradox, I don't think you can go wrong with the Chimp Paradox at the moment to help kind of manage your own emotions with everything that's going on. For parents, I'd say like the Silent Guides.
Right, okay.
Which is by the same guy that wrote the Chimp Paradox.
Okay.
But it's aimed towards like how to manage your kids and their chimps.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
I'd say like at the moment, like if you're working at home and you've got the kids around, it's pretty useful to be able to kind of manage that side of it. I think Atomic Habits by James Clear is like a must.
I think if you've had that in like 8 podcasts and I've still not read it, so I'm gonna have to
Get red, Phil.
I think like that's a really good one. And from an athlete perspective, there's one called The Brave Athlete, Calm the Fuck Down.
Right, okay.
Which is like the chimp paradox, but pretty much geared towards the mindset of an athlete. And they use the chimp analogies and stuff like that. It's a really, really good book.
I can see Josh adding these to his list as you go through them. Okay.
It's loads. I think
I like it because like just had some recommendations there where I've not got.
Yeah.
So like in previous podcasts, I've just been pulling books off here that are like, you know, everyone keeps saying. So it's nice to get some new recommendations. I'm like, oh, I'll look into that. Definitely read that.
Brave Athlete's really good, especially like there's a chapter on like how to deal with pain and discomfort. So you're saying about those 10 times 500 meters.
Yeah.
How to manage that.
Right.
So you'd literally take it like 100 meters at a time and counting drills and all these sort of like little things that you can do to manage it and really chunk it down to like a manageable sort of
Is that the Brave Athlete one, that one?
Yeah. So if there's one book that I would say like read if you're an athlete or coach, that would probably be the best one.
Right. Let's get it.
Read that.
I actually read a book a while ago, one that you recommended, Legacy by James Kern. That was one of them. Yeah. I thought that one might come up. But anyway, we'll move on because I think we could get stuck on books forever. Next question, where one person, they can be dead or alive, you get to spend a full day with them and you can learn anything that you can from them in 24 hours. So you've got 24 hours to basically gather as much knowledge from them as you can. Who would that person be?
It's sad to say because it happened recently, but Kobe Bryant.
Right, okay. Right. That's a good one.
Like growing up, basketball was my sport, so I was a big Kobe fan.
Right.
And obviously what happened in January was just like crazy, but you kind of see what he was like as an athlete and like how driven and focused he was. And then you see how he switched that around when he retired and like how he was like a dedicated parent and the things that he did drive him forward. He was your cliche stuff of I want to do something every day to get better. But it's training, like there's some amazing stories flying around, but like last month where he the one he literally broke when he tore his Achilles, and like his rehab was he took up tap dancing.
Yeah.
So he started tap dancing because it's the only thing he could do to strengthen his Achilles. He said he hated doing it, but he knew it would make him better.
Yeah.
So it was those sort of like things. It'd probably be Kobe Bryant and just kind of learn off him as an athlete, as a person, and that mindset, that Mamba mentality of like just be relentless, and be driven and like just focus on what needs doing to get you to where you need to be. I think that would be the end of that one.
Love it. That's a brilliant answer. Last one. What would the title of your autobiography be?
Ooh. I don't know. Probably Lift, Row, Eat, Grow. Just because it just sums me up. It sums up what I like doing in terms of like as a coach. It's all I like lifting. I was good at rowing, nutrition, and the grow is the mindset side of it. It's the like how you can improve, how you can help others improve as a coach, as a person, and that's kind of how it came about. So I would say that because it's a nice a nice sell for me in my coaching business.
Yeah.
Also, I think it sums me up pretty well, I must say.
But before we finish, speaking of selling for your coaching business, how can people find you? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
The website is lregfitnessandnutrition.com.
Yeah, I'll link that.
On Instagram, it's the same.
Yeah.
And on Facebook, it's Lift, Row, Eat, Grow.
Excellent. Like I said, I'll link all those up.
And it's a good example for how sometimes you got to shift gears as a coach. That initially it was Lift, Row, Eat, Grow, and like I knew exactly what that was, but the outside person had no idea what I was selling, what I was doing, what I offered.
Right.
So that's why it's like LREG, and it's just fitness and nutrition. So it's a good site. Like I was buying into the idea that this is amazing. I know what it means. I love it. Everybody else love it. And they had no idea what it was. So that's why it kind of changed to LREG. It's just an abbreviation, and then fitness and nutrition, so that the outsider can actually see what it is.
Excellent. Right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for your time today, Paul. That was amazing. I think people
Cheers, Paul. It's been awesome.
super informative. Just before we go, we are obviously in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, so we're just spending the last couple of minutes of our show every time thanking all the NHS workers and emergency services that are all out there at the moment. So just a big thank you to them once again. Don't forget, check out some previous shows that we've done. If you enjoyed this show, you will also enjoy a show that we did, episode 4 with Adam Travis. That was a great show to be a part of, and I think if you enjoyed this one, you'll definitely enjoy that one as well. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, 5-star review if possible, and like, share and comment, please, guys. Thank you very much, and see you all again soon. Peace.